What's up, everybody? This is going to be a special episode for the Pac-12 preview. I've decided to do a quarterback special. There are some amazing quarterbacks in the Pac-12 conference this year, starting with this guy right here. So instead of going normal team by team, I'm going to be going by myself, going through quarterback by quarterback, talking about the quarterbacks and throwing in a couple win total bets along the way. So make sure to like, subscribe, and enjoy.
Williams has time against the four-man rush, backpedaling, scanning, now running out of time, circling back, joystick on the move again. Are you kidding me? Caleb Williams dancing, cutting, mesmerizing run by the quarterback, finally dragged down at the 20. It's a highlight reel tonight.
So it's only right that we start at the top of the list with Caleb Williams at USC. He is the defending Heisman Trophy winner, 2022 Heisman Trophy winner. USC comes in with big expectations after just missing the playoff last year. Their win total comes in at 10, and they are the favorite to win this conference. Caleb Williams is the projected #1 overall pick in the draft next year. He had 4,500 yards last year, #3 in the nation, 42 touchdowns. That was best in the nation, only 5 interceptions. He is the favorite to repeat as the Heisman Trophy winner. And it's hard to go against him, but then again, it is hard to repeat as a Heisman. I think when it comes to Caleb Williams in terms of a Heisman bet, it's not really worth the money. It's not worth the payout to go with him to win the Heisman. But as long as he stays healthy, it should be another unbelievable season for him offensively at USC. When it comes to USC as a team, the bigger question is how are they going to perform defensively? I think they have a lot to improve on. Last season, they kind of lucked out with the best turnover margin in the country, plus 22 turnover margin. It's going to be hard to repeat that. So I'm going to be fading Caleb Williams in the Heisman market and fading USC in terms of week by week. And I will not be betting their win totals or them to win the conference. I think for it to be a successful season for USC, they need to make the college football playoff. Last year, they were so close. And this year, with all the hype, all the momentum, they really need to make the college football playoff for it to be considered a successful season.
Penix, clean pocket, to throw down the sideline. He drops it in for Davis down the sideline, and there's nobody home.
A safety in half coverage. There is no way that you would have quarterbacks make that throw. Bennett Williams has played for 6 years.
Next up is my guy, Michael Penix Jr., the Washington Huskies. Michael Penix had an unbelievable last year after transferring in from Indiana. He was #2 in the nation in passing yards last year with over 4,600 yards. That was the best in all of Power 5. Washington is another team that's coming in with high expectations. They have a win total of 9.5. They had a great finish to the season last year, beating Texas in the Alamo Bowl to cap off their season. And Michael Penix is the reason for that big hype. He comes in 6th on the odds list to win the Heisman this year. He is supposed to be a top 5 quarterback in the country once again. He's getting ready to be an NFL draft pick next year. They have so much going for them, so much going for Michael Penix, including having what is, in my mind, the second best wide receiver duo in the country with Rome Odunze and Jalen McMillan. Especially Rome Odunze should be a monster. He has the potential to be the best non-Ohio State wide receiver in the country and in the NFL draft next year. Now, in terms of what would make it a successful season for Michael Penix Jr. and Washington, I think baseline, they need to make the conference championship game. They couldn't quite pull it off last year, mainly losing a game that they shouldn't have lost to Arizona State, which was a really bad effort from them defensively. Just like USC, that's really where they need to go to the next step, is on the defensive side of the ball. The offense is going to ball out. There is no doubt about that. So if the defense can step up, which I think they can, they've done a good job in the transfer portal. They're bringing a decent amount of guys back. I think they can improve defensively, and I think a really successful season would be winning this conference. I think they are really capable of it, and if everything goes their way when it comes to winning the conference, it could also lead to them being in the college football playoff, and if that's to happen, I think Michael Penix Jr. will be a Heisman finalist. So I think him being a Heisman finalist, Washington making the college football playoff would be a really successful season. And if you've been paying attention to me at all, I think both of those things are going to happen. I will be betting Washington to win the conference. I've already bet Washington to win the national championship, and I've bet Michael Penix to win the Heisman. So I'm all in on the Huskies this year. I'm going to be backing Washington in every possible way. I recommend you do too. I'll be betting them a lot week by week. If you're betting their win total, I think the only way you can go is over. This team is winning double-digit games. I'm going to be betting them week by week in their team total. I think they're just going to ball out every week. Michael Penix is the man. Go Huskies.
Penix roaming to the right. Steps up. Uncorked down the field. Franklin!
Developing in front of them. And they pick on the true freshman. Right, the loss of Perham in the corner hurts. It puts the true freshman Green from Texas in a position once again, one-on-one with the fastest duck of them all. Troy Franklin was a...
Once again, is it Bo Nix's year? I feel like we've said this 5 years in a row, ever since he was the kind of freshman phenom coming in at Auburn. Now going into year 2 at Oregon a few years later, Bo Nix once again has the preseason hype. He's 8th on the Heisman odds list. People really think he can really ball out this year in his second year at Oregon. He is right up there with Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Drake May from the ACC, of these quarterbacks that should be the top 4 or 5 quarterbacks taken in the NFL draft next year. So he really needs a good year, not just for his standing at Oregon and his college football legacy, but also where he could go in the NFL draft next year. He's had tons of ups and downs over the years between his time in Auburn and Oregon. He has games and flashes and plays where he looks like the best quarterback in college football, and then he has Bo Nix plays where he will throw a terrible interception at a terrible time, cost his team a game. He'll turn the ball over at an inopportune time, cost his team the potential at winning a conference, making a college football playoff. And this year, he has to erase that if he wants to be winning the Pac-12 conference, which I think should be his goal this year. I think Oregon has all the tools to win the Pac-12, and I think if he wants to be a Heisman finalist and potentially a top NFL draft pick, he really needs to eliminate those mistakes, keep the plays where he's scrambling around and being a hero, because that's what makes him Bo Nix, but try to be smarter when making those plays, eliminate mistakes. And I think Oregon here in year 2 under the new leadership, Dan Lanning, if he can improve this defense, Oregon could be the team going to the Pac-12 championship, and will have a really good chance to win it, and Bo Nix will have a good chance to be a Heisman finalist if they can get everything clicking up there in Eugene.
Oh, it's a snap that shocked Cam Rising. Now he breaks it down and rolls out. Rising steps through and gets absolutely demolished. Oh my gosh, what a hit. With a Rose Bowl berth on the line here for his team again. Rising flings it downfield, and he's got the tight end. Yasmin is free inside the 15, and he rumbles on in. 60 yards of total.
Now move on to who is maybe the most underrated quarterback in this entire conference, and that is Cam Rising at Utah. People, I feel like, don't even talk about the fact that Utah has won back-to-back Pac-12 championships with Cam Rising at the helm. He has done an unbelievable job. He's not had the numbers and the flash of some of these guys like Penix, Caleb Williams, even Bo Nix, but he was top 25 in the country in passing touchdowns last year. When he gets into the red zone, he's super athletic. He can scramble. He makes plays. He puts the ball in the end zone, which at the end of the day is the most important thing that your quarterback can do. And he wins football games. He's won back-to-back Pac-12 championships. This is going to be his 3rd year as the starter in Utah. He knows how to make winning plays. Now, the win total for Utah is at 8.5, a little bit lower than those top 3 teams that I just talked about. But if you've won back-to-back conference championship games, the only thing that can make your season a success is going for the three-peat and winning a 3rd Pac-12 championship game. You really have no choice but to set your expectations that high until somebody can knock you off. It's your conference. It's Cam Rising's conference. And the only big question mark going into this year is Cam Rising did have a nasty injury at the end of last season. And now he comes into this season not at 100%. Week 1 against Florida, it's looking like he may end up being a no-go, which in terms of any sort of college football playoff aspirations they may have, could be detrimental if they lose that Week 1 game to Florida. But in terms of winning the conference, which I think Kyle Whittingham, his priority is going to be winning the conference as it always is, he might be keeping Cam Rising healthy, holding him back for the out-of-conference games. Then when it comes to conference play, letting Cam Rising let loose, do his thing, and going for the three-peat.
Has a man, wow, perfectly placed into the hands of Willie Gaines and touchdown. Beautifully thrown ball from Shedeur Sanders. Saw the one-on-one coverage. His man got behind the defense, and 35 yards later, the score.
I mean, look at this. Knowing where they're coming from, great touch on the pass. And to me, what's so impressive about that, you become a great quarterback.
Now moving on to maybe the most intriguing quarterback in the entire conference, and that is Shedeur Sanders at Colorado. Obviously, he's the son of Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, the coach at Colorado. He transferred in from Jackson State to Colorado over the summer when Deion got hired at Colorado. Colorado's obviously a team that's been talked about a ton, got a lot of hype, gotten a lot of shit from people like me. I'm way down on Colorado if you've been paying attention to anything that I've been saying this offseason. Their win total is currently at 3.5. I bet the under on their win total when it was at 4.5. And honestly, I would still bet it here under 3.5. I really think there are 3 wins on the board for this team. Maybe by the end of the season, they get better and they have a chance to beat someone they shouldn't beat the last couple of weeks of the season. But I'm pretty low on this team overall. But when it comes to Shedeur Sanders, I think it's going to be really interesting. He won the Deacon Jones Trophy last year, which is basically the Heisman for HBCUs. It's the best player at any HBCU school. He won that. He threw for 3,700 yards, 40 touchdowns, 6 interceptions last year. It was an unbelievable season, and he obviously has tons of hype. But going from the HBCU Jackson State competition to Pac-12 competition is a totally different thing. Going on the road to Utah, playing against Oregon, some of these schools is going to be just a total step up in competition. And I don't know. I really don't know what's going to happen from him on an individual level. I think he has tons of talent. I think maybe this year could be kind of a feeling out year for him, kind of getting himself up to that next level, that Power 5, Pac-12 level. And then next year could be a bigger year for Shedeur Sanders and for Colorado as a whole as they kind of get their roster more together and start to really build on something. But for now, I'm down on Sanders and down on Colorado. Sorry, Coach Prime.
They need the 24-yard line. Ward under pressure, hit, escapes. Throws, caught. Farrell cuts to the end zone, touchdown. What a play by Cam Ward. He's able to come out of it and find Farrell. Watch this. They loop a defensive tackle around, breaks a couple tackles, gets away, and then.
Now this next guy is another guy I think is really underrated in this conference, and that is Cam Ward at Washington State. His career started at Incarnate Word on the FCS level. In 2021, he won the Jerry Rice Award, which goes to the best player in all of FCS. He transferred in to Washington State. His first year as the starter last year, he was top 25 in the country in passing yards, did a really good job. And this year, he's got to take that to a new level if he wants to consider his season a success. Washington State comes in with their win total at 6. And I think if Cam Ward is to have a successful year, he's got to top his personal stats from last year, but also take this team to a bowl game. He's got to hit that 6 win total mark or go over. And if he can pull off an upset against one of the big dogs, especially obviously their in-state rival of Washington, that would make this an outstanding season. But I think this offense is going to be really intriguing. They have the youngest offensive coordinator in the country, Ben Arbuckle, who is only 27 years old. He's the same age as me, which is crazy. He comes in from Western Kentucky, who's obviously had an incredibly dynamic offense over the last few years. He's learned through that system, and he should be able to bring something really unique and help Cam Ward out. But the only thing, is it going to be too soon, first year OC for a really young guy trying to help out Cam Ward? But I think things are going to go well for Cam Ward in Washington State. Their team I'm definitely going to look at betting week to week, as long as Cam Ward can avoid the turnovers that really hampered him in that offense last year. If he can start to limit those turnovers, I really think he could be dangerous, and this team could be dangerous. And I like them to get to 6 wins and make a bowl game.
3rd and 4, making something out of nothing.
Quarterback run. Uyunglele breaks a tackle at the 5, into the end zone for the touchdown. Looks a lot better running the football.
Well, let's just go quarterback counter. Pull backside guard. He's going to get a kick out block. Brenning Sewell's going to travel with him, get a seal, open up a nice hole for Uyunglele. Runs through the arm tackle, steps over it as he strolls into the end zone. Well blocked off that left side. Boy, Jordan McFadden buries that defensive end.
Now, this next guy is maybe the biggest question mark in this whole conference. We have these guys like Caleb Williams, Michael Penix, Bo Nix that we know are just going to ball out. We even have guys like Cam Ward that I just talked about that I think he has a pretty high floor. I'd be surprised if he had a bad year. But then you have this guy, DJ Uiagalelei at Oregon State, and things could really go either way for DJU. If you've listened to any content I've done in the past, partially because I hate Clemson, but I've been super low on DJU. I don't think he's the guy. I don't think he was capable of being the guy to take Clemson to a college football playoff winning national championships, which is what they expect. And obviously I was right. He came in as a backup to Trevor Lawrence in 2020 and did a really good job. Everybody was super high on him. He went into the 2021 season as the second favorite to win the Heisman that year. He had a really tough year in 2021. He forced Clemson to miss their only ACC championship game since 2014. In 2022, he came back with a lot more pressure on, and statistically actually had a better season than he did in 2021. He did make it back to the ACC championship game, but he also had a really good chance to take it to that next level, make the college football playoff, but he could not beat my Gamecocks at home, which snapped Clemson's record-breaking home win streak. It broke their win streak against South Carolina, which in that state is so important. So it was really brutal for DJU to lose that game, and it kind of resulted in the DJU era being over. Cade Klubnik ended up taking over for him in the ACC Conference Championship game. And after he was replaced, it was clear Cade Klubnik was going to be the guy this year at Clemson. So DJU decided to transfer out and go to Oregon State. Now at Oregon State, it's going to be interesting. They are a team with some expectation. They have a win total of 8.5, but they're not a college football playoff expectation team like Clemson was. They're not in the national spotlight like Clemson is all the time. So I think this could really be helpful to DJU to get out of the national spotlight, take some of the pressure off. He's on a run-first team. This team has a really good offensive line and a really good rushing attack that he should be helpful at. He was good on the ground with his feet at Clemson, even when he struggled making big-time throws. So I think he could thrive in this offensive system. And despite being a DJU hater, I think here at Oregon State, he could really put all of his skills together in the right way and have a really good year. And I think Oregon State is a really slept-on team. And I think they're going to be a team that could come out of nowhere and steal a Pac-12 championship game spot from one of these top teams. Everybody thinks it's going to be either a combination of USC, Washington, Oregon, or Utah, one of those 4 teams, or 2 of those 4 teams, I should say. But I think if anybody's going to come out from behind and steal one of those spots, it would be Oregon State if DJU can really click. Now, if we get 2021 DJU, there's a chance this team could be really awful and DJU could be back on the bench after a few weeks. But I actually do have faith in him thriving in this system, and I think Oregon State will be a really tough team that nobody wants to see and it would be a really successful season if they could find a way into that Pac-12 championship game.
Under center now for the sixth play of the drive. A toss to DJ Williams, who throws it back. Nice block for DeLaura. Extending the play to the end zone. Touchdown, Wildcats! Now they're really having fun. Tate Terrell McMillan threw one to DeLaura in the first half.
It's calculated still. Give it to the running back, throw it back to the quarterback. Seeing Jordan Morgan, their athletic left tackle out in space.
The next guy on the list is Jayden de Laura at Arizona. This is maybe the most electric quarterback in the country that you don't know about. He had an unbelievable first year at Arizona, was top 25 in the country in passing touchdowns. He has ridiculous arm talent, ridiculous athleticism. He can make basically any throw on the field. His only real problem is he has had some major off-the-field issues and controversy that has surrounded him. And that's honestly my biggest concern about Jayden de Laura in Arizona this year. I think they could be a really feisty team. I really like what they're building at Arizona. They have a win total of 5 that I really think they should go over if they play up to their ability. I think they should win 6 games and make a bowl game. My only worry is with all the off-the-field controversy surrounding de Laura and Arizona, that it could be a little too much and they could start to drop some games that they should be winning. But I think if everything goes right, he could join that iconic list of Hawaiian quarterbacks to succeed in college football. He went to the same high school as the GOAT, Timmy Chang from Hawaii, Marcus Mariota, Tua Tagovailoa. They all went to the same high school. It's an iconic high school for Hawaiian quarterbacks. And I think Jayden de Laura, as long as he can stay out of trouble off the field, stay focused on football, he could be insanely athletic and talented at Arizona and put on a show. And if he can get to a bowl game this year, I think that would be something really good for them to build on moving forward.
Dante Moore, back-ended quarterback, drops back for the second time in a row, over the middle, little bit perfect. I thought it was going to be overthrown. Carnell Tate, good finishing job there. And that's the 3rd touchdown toss for Dante Moore. And again, it is a ruin to a Buckeye, 6 points east.
A lot of young quarterbacks with the arm strength of Dante Moore don't really display the arm talent. And these are phrases that really get mixed up sometimes, because arm talent doesn't necessarily mean you just have a big arm. When you're a talented passer, you can throw receivers open like we've seen Dante Moore do.
All right, this next guy is the only freshman on the list. It is Dante Moore from UCLA. Now, Dante Moore technically has not even won the starting job yet. There's a chance that Ethan Garbers will take the job to start the year. But this kid, Dante Moore, is the real deal. He was the number 4 recruit in this class. He was the number 3 quarterback in the class behind Arch Manning and the Nico guy from Tennessee. I don't even bother to try to say his last name because I know I'm going to say it wrong. But Dante Moore, I think, could end up being the best quarterback from this class. He has some unbelievable highlights that we just watched one before this. I think he's going to be an absolute monster. If he doesn't start the season, there's going to be a ton of pressure on Ethan Garbers, because the first mistake he makes, there's going to be pressure from the fans, the media, to get Dante Moore in there. Now, the win total for UCLA is 8.5. I think they're right there with Oregon State as one of the 2 teams that could steal a Pac-12 championship game bid from the Big 4 of USC, Washington, Oregon, and Utah. Those 2 teams both have the potential to pull something like that off. And UCLA, they will be able to achieve that potential if Dante Moore can reach his potential. Now, a successful season for Dante Moore, I think, would be whether it comes week 1, week 2, week 3, seizing that starting job and then keeping it the rest of the year, playing well enough that they don't have an excuse to take Dante Moore off the field. And I think if he does get on the field, he's not giving it back. So watch out, Ethan Garbers. If you start the season, Dante Moore's coming, and I think he could be the type of guy to pull off a big upset late in the season to really disrupt what's going on in the Pac-12. All right, I'm now just going to run through these last 3 teams, kind of the bottom of the barrel, not counting Colorado. But since they had such an intriguing quarterback, I threw Colorado into the main quarterback section. But these 3 teams, really not competing with the rest of the teams in this conference. Starting with Arizona State, whose win total is 4.5. Their quarterback situation, it's looking like they're going to start Drew Pine, who transferred in from Notre Dame, who could not even keep the starting job at Notre Dame. He's somebody that I was really low on whenever he was playing in Notre Dame. I was looking to fade them. I think this Arizona State team comes in with a ton of new coaches, some of the least returning production in all of college football, a ton of turnover all over the place. They also have freshman quarterback Jaden Rashada that could have a chance at it. Probably has a higher ceiling than Drew Pine, but also a lower floor. So this is a team I'm really not interested in backing in any way. I'm just staying away from Arizona State. The next team is Cal. Their win total is 5.5, and it is a win total I'm targeting to go under. Their starting quarterback is going to be Sam Jackson. He was the third string quarterback at TCU last year behind Max Duggan, and was not even really able to get on the field much for those games that TCU was winning in a blowout fashion. As the third string, he really stayed on the sideline. Wasn't really looking like he was going to get a chance, even with Max Duggan gone at TCU. So he's transferred to Cal, and I think he's going to have a really tough time. They have a really tough schedule. They play the top 6 teams in the Pac-12. They play Auburn out of conference. It's really going to be a tough time. They have a ton of turnover, like I said, especially on the defensive side of the ball. It's going to be a lot of young guys, a lot of transfers that aren't too highly touted. It's going to be tough at the quarterback position for Sam Jackson, so I'm going to be going under the 5.5 win total for Cal. And the last team in the conference, Stanford. It is year 1 in the post-David Shaw era. David Shaw obviously went through a run where he was super iconic, did incredible things at Stanford and for Stanford football, but his last couple years really tanked the program. He was not recruiting well. He was not hitting the transfer portal at all, and really set this program back a few years. So they are going to be starting from scratch at Stanford. Their quarterback situation, they have Syracuse transfer Justin Lamson, who could potentially be the starter, or Ari Patu, who was Tanner McKee's backup at Stanford last year. It's going to be one of those two. I'd be shocked if we don't see both of them play throughout the season, because I doubt either of them would be playing well enough to maintain the job all year. So I think this team's going to be really ugly. I can't bring myself to bet that under 2.5 win total, but I really don't even see where this team could win 3 games. It's going to be really ugly for Stanford, and I think this is just a year they got to take a breath, start from scratch, and start working to build back what this program was with Jim Harbaugh and early in the David Shaw era, because it was an iconic football program that was winning tons of games and putting out big NFL prospects. So I think Stanford, take a breather, worry about next year. So that's every team, every quarterback in this conference. Like I said, it should be an incredibly exciting conference to watch. These quarterbacks, my guy, Michael Penix, Caleb Williams, the defending Heisman Trophy winner, Bo Nix is always one of the most entertaining quarterbacks to watch. Shedeur Sanders at Colorado, who knows what he's going to do. That should be incredibly exciting. Cam Ward, Cam Rising, the 2 Cams. DJ Uiagalelei, I think what he does is one of the most intriguing things to watch this season. Jaden DeLora, Dante Moore, these young guys that could really put on a show, I think are going to be really exciting to watch. In terms of my overall thoughts on the conference, like I said, I'm going to be trying to fade USC on a weekly basis, and I'm not backing them in any manner to win the conference, go over their win total, make the playoff, national championship, anything. I think there's regression coming for them after the plus 22 turnover margin last year. Bringing in Cliff Kingsbury to be the offensive coordinator, I think, is a joke. I know Lincoln Riley will be calling the plays, but keep Cliff Kingsbury away from my team at all costs. I don't want anything to do with Cliff, so I'm staying away there. My pick to win the conference, obviously, is going to be the Washington Huskies. I think they beat Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. But if Oregon State is the team that makes it in to the conference championship game and gets the pleasure of losing to Michael Penix in Washington, I would not be surprised. Washington gets Oregon and Utah at home, who's going to be their main competition to make this conference championship game. They do have to go to USC, but that is a game of the year bet I have already made on Washington plus 6. I think Washington has the better defense and is just as capable of putting up 1,000,000 points as USC is. So I'm going to be backing Washington in that game, and I think Washington beats Oregon and Utah at home. I think they have a chance to run the table and get through this season undefeated, which would be incredibly impressive based on the talent that I've been talking about in this conference. I'm going to be fading Colorado a lot early in the season. Like I said, I'm pretty heavily against them. I think they just don't have enough Power 5 talent across the board. They have a couple guys that Travis Hunter, these guys that were top-level high school recruits that people are like, oh, but they have him. Of course they're going to be good. Well, one player can't really do that, especially on the defensive side of the ball. I don't know if Shedeur Sanders is quite ready for this level of competition. Even if he is, the offensive line, they're starting guys who transferred in from the MAC who have terrible offensive line play. I think it could be a really tough year for Colorado, especially early in the season. So I'm going to be betting against them a lot. My win total bets for this conference: Cal under 5.5 wins, Colorado under, I bet 4.5, now 3.5. I would still bet Arizona over 5 wins. I think the ceiling is just too high there. It could go disastrously wrong with the off-the-field distractions. But I think if everything clicks, Arizona should comfortably win 6 games. And then I'm backing Washington to win the conference. And that's it for the Pac-12. Thanks for tuning in. Later in the week will be the Big 12 preview. So make sure to look out for that. Is Texas back? We will see. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like the video, leave a comment with your favorite Pac-12 bet. And the season is getting really close. Get excited. Thanks for watching.